Hey guys, welcome back. It's Talsy. Today we're going to talk about how to actually handle 3D circumstances or like a specific person that you have to deal with in your 3D when you're consciously manifesting, and say like the preferred version that you selected, it hasn't quite materialized, or your 3D hasn't caught up to what you are affirming for internally, or you have declared the I am the version of me with the SP this way. And I'm getting a lot of people asking me these questions, like, Talsy, everything seemed to be going well, and then suddenly SP said or did something, or 3P appears to have not gone away, or something else has happened where they feel very, very triggered, and they kind of feel like the 3D is not matching their desire. And so I want to talk about like how to handle your specific person, especially if you have to interact with them when they haven't kind of conformed to what you're selecting. And I want to really reinforce that it's about identity always and never circumstances, at least the way that I teach it. So if this is a common problem for you, then I also have a free video recording from my course Shifted where I've done a Q&A with one of the members on exactly this issue and how to deal with this kind of an issue with your specific person in the 3D when it feels like nothing's working, and how to persist until it hardens into fact, which is something that anyone in the conscious manifesting game always emphasizes. We persist until it hardens into fact. But I'm going to explain a bit more why we do that and what that actually means. So I've had clients this week, some of them feel quite disheartened, and some of them say, well, is this time to give up? And I want to emphasize that you feeling frustrated and sometimes doubting yourself is pretty human, but it's actually the perfect time to persist, because it's really that moment where you get to have your breakthrough. It's that moment where if something shows up kind of a little bit sideways, you might have been really focusing in a certain type of a way, doing certain techniques, which are just reinforcement tools of the identity or the state of you having someone a certain way, and then suddenly something looks funny. It's the perfect moment for you to stick to your decision with consistency and being a version of you that knows no matter what, you're the operant power, and that the outside is going to reinforce you and what you have decided, and nothing outside of you ever will reflect anything other than who you are dominantly. So sometimes things can pop up, guys, and so never see this as an indication that you've done anything wrong or it's not working. It's working because you're working, okay? So if you have been consciously doing the inner work, okay, shifting your state, the outside is inevitably catching up. But sometimes when things look a little bit sideways or the opposite, it's never about them, but it is potentially, it's just old awareness that is clearing away. It's remnants of old story that might be still there. Some of you though, in some cases, you may be affirming something, but then you're not sort of aware that you slip back and some of your old thoughts are coming up, and you might be following them down a rabbit hole, and then you're identified with that person in a certain type of a way, and for a moment they're projecting back that old story. But the truth of the matter is, regardless, I prefer to help you guys in the sense of making it easy and clean. You have in that moment when you feel like something outside of you is showing up, like your person is not quite conformed yet, or they say or do something, and you feel a strong reaction, you have in that moment to say, okay, this is fantastic. This is an opportunity for me to reselect who I believe myself to be, and knowing that I'm the one that gets to direct my reality through who I'm being, and that old version of that person it's old awareness. It always was old awareness, okay? So this is just like a good check-in tool and a check-in moment to say, okay, my specific person, that's not who I am, and that's not who they are anymore. I don't need to fix it, change it, or worry about it. I've already shifted. The outside is catching up, okay, to my chosen identity. So I am the version that is loved, and I know no matter what, that is my story, okay? So it's almost like you can kind of, treat it like it's a nothing thing. I know for some of you that can feel hard because you start to feel doubt. Some of you also go and you check for validation. You start obsessively watching tarot readings, etc. I know that some of you have come to me and you're watching other tarot readers and you're saying, oh, the tarot reader said that they're not coming back, or the tarot reader said that they're a cheater, or the tarot reader said this. Now, in some cases, you guys have done that. You've selected new identity and you've done that. And then the 3D has shown you the evidence, which just shows that what you were doing was you were not sticking to your decision and you were looking for validation outside from a shitty state where you don't believe you have it, and you got the reinforcement. Others of you, you are, embodying a new state, a new identity. You've made your decision, and the outside must, no matter what, guys, mirror you, including your specific person, the selection you've made. But then, you still doubt yourself, or you still buy in too much into the illusion as the old awareness and the old 3D shit is just clearing away. So how to handle triggers and old awareness, okay? So when something happens that triggers you, or your specific person says something, I did a video earlier in the week, guys, even in the case of where it's less extreme, like a text appears dry, well, the identity where you believe your specific person loves you, it doesn't appear dry, but you might have slipped into old awareness or old state. But in other cases where it's more dramatic, this is not a blame game, guys, okay? So if SP shows up being a twat or something, well, one, we don't accept anything that we don't want in our 3D as truth. We don't have to engage in it. Like if it's feeling really something that you just really don't enjoy, and, I'm not telling you guys to be masochists, okay? But I am saying to you, you have affirmed something and you've said, this is who I am. So inevitably it is manifesting for you. There is nothing in your way, okay? The test here is how much are you going to buy into that old version and the illusion that that is a fixed circumstance and that is exactly how they are and that is what it is, versus what is really going on the inner, and sticking to your decision. And this is more about consistency, guys, and discipline, and returning to that, and not being thrown around and giving your power away to, the outside, and remnants of old story and SP, the version that anyway you're not really manifesting. You don't want a shitty version of an SP. You're manifesting, selecting a version that you prefer. And I did do a video earlier in the week about why everyone reflects different aspects of us. So you're in the process, guys, of reconditioning yourself to be a version of you that you already are. There's the version of you that already is loved. So it's not about healing or fixing yourself, and you're not fucked up in any kind of a way, but you are letting go. You're in the process of just like transitioning yourself and getting more into the habit, more dominant story within of being loved, the chosen one, etc. Now, sometimes things are popping up and your rational, logical mind doesn't understand how that fits in with the identity that you've chosen and the selection that you've made, like the version of the person that you're saying, well, we're madly in love, and then they say something and they're appearing like a not quite what you want, or a 3P pops up. Your logical linear mind, it's not your job to kind of figure out why that has popped up and buy into that and dwell in that. It's your job to just say, my decision's final and my identity is what decides, and that the outside is going to follow my identity and my decision. You may have some old association, some old awareness within self and with respect to that person, but we don't even need to focus on it. We just need to return with consistency, and whatever you've been doing it right. It's actually an indication you're doing it right. So remind yourself, actually, this is perfect. This is a very good tool and a good way for you to just bring yourself back to the now moment, guys, because everything is within the now, okay? So even that perception or that thing popping up a moment ago has no meaning unless you keep dwelling and buying into it. And this is usually the point where people tend to give up. Like they're saying, okay, I've been doing affirming, I've been doing all this sort of stuff, but then they give a lot of power to the outside when something doesn't match 100%, okay? And so it isn't about the outside. It's like you just allowing yourself to remind yourself who the fuck you are, the truth, that you're just consciousness. So not putting too much awareness on that aspect that has been reflected, okay, of you feeling ignored, of you feeling like you're still not chosen, of you feeling like I've had people say they're hot and cold. They're doing all this identity work and they're saying, okay, I'm amazing and I am feeling so good and I'm seeing all this change around me. which is not a coincidence, guys. But then they're like, but my SP is still hot and cold. Okay, guys, well, first of all, you might still have an association with that person and you have not released old story with respect to them, but I'm not telling you this needs to be an endless journey or that if they're not showing up perfect yet that you've messed it up. But what I'm telling you is just return to the decision, okay? Return to the identity and you will see how quickly that stuff, you're going to be so unbothered and detached, and that is when you're going to get a fast change, because also that momentary thing will mean nothing in a moment. Basically, guys, like it could shift that quickly. It's how much you're buying into it and how much you're feeding it. So it is just like remnants of old you and old them being reflected back, okay? So we've already decided this is who you are. The 3D is going to reflect, but you just need to persist until it hardens into fact. So persist. It's not a sign that that something's not working, okay? And you do not need the outside to validate. When you do that, okay, a lot of you, that's also the issue, because you've made a decision and then you're scanning and you're checking for validation that your decision is final. And that's usually you slipped into a state where you're back in an old awareness where you don't have things the way you want, or you're rejected, or you're not chosen, etc. So then that is often when shit goes a bit sideways. So whatever scenario it is, whether we could liken it to old awareness clearing away and it's actually working perfectly because you're about to just see, you know, you can't really rationalize why things are moving around, but they are perfectly for you, or whether it is because you slipped temporarily into old version of self. I would say neither scenario, we don't have to overanalyze it, but I would say that a very good tool and technique would be like stop yourself, like be aware in the moment. Say, okay, that has popped up. It has no power over me. It has certainly not any power larger. The 3D is not more powerful than what is going on internally, my identity, how I think, okay? And I mean, I even did a video about perceptions and how the outside will change when you shift your perception. So in the very least, if it's really not making sense, you can always have the perception or the perspective that I always get what I want because I'm the decider and I have chosen my reality. I've chosen my identity. I've selected a version of this SP, and persist until it hardens into fact, and persist in dominantly holding them in the assumption, because we are not focused on old version and old circumstances and conditions. Dominantly focus on self. It's an inside job, guys, not an outside job. We don't need to manipulate or try to interact or try to perform or try to fix anything that has happened or figure it all out. What are we going to do now because of that 3P or what they said? That's actually going to put you in a place where you're in a state where all that stuff is relevant, and it is completely irrelevant to the version of reality that you have shifted into where everything is perfect, okay? So that stuff must go, okay? Regardless of anything, regardless of the why and all that sort of stuff. You don't need to over rationalize it. You certainly don't need to worry that you have messed anything up. You don't need to start all over again and think that you've regressed. There's no rules, guys. There's no, okay, you are not a good manifester, none of it. All you need to do is remain consistent, persisting in what do you think about yourself. Who do you believe yourself to be? First and foremost, that should be that you're the God of your reality, you're the operant power, okay? You're also the operant power where you're giving too much awareness to the outside, where you don't prefer the circumstances and you're feeding them. So let's be the operant power where we're like, that means nothing. It has no power over me if I would just persist in the ultimate self-concept, guys. So a lot of the time, old awareness and shitty stuff has come from maybe not having such a great self-concept and also not knowing your God power. So let's persist with the self-concept, and therefore with that self-concept, I am that I am, and also the identity of the opposite of what was shown, not chosen, not getting the love you deserve, not feeling loved, etc., detaching from that version of self Well, you know, it's a reconditioning process. It doesn't have to take a long time, but it's the consistency in that decision. And it's like you are in another reality where you have a different belief about yourself, so identity, your self-concept, and therefore a different belief about them. And they must then match that. So they will catch up. And everything that you thought was an issue before, you just need to throw it out the window. Don't give it power, and you will see that it's like totally irrelevant. The outside is moving around for you, and it's going to be a non-issue in no time, okay? So persist until it hardens into fact. And as I mentioned, you can check out the link and the Q&A session that I did where I dealt with this with a member who shifted. And otherwise, I hope that this helped you guys, and you can let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys soon.